Good morning, good day, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome, 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 and thank you for joining Pivoting to Web3. And today we have an exciting guest. My guest is Israel Wilson, and Israel Wilson is business development and an innovator all the way down. He's the crypto native and the key progenitor, or let me just keep it real, the originator, the developer, the founder of the NFT era. He's also leading advisor in Web3 and entertainment and building the on-ramp for legacy artists and brands. So at this time, I'd like to welcome Israel to Pivoting to Web3. Israel, how are you doing today? It's so glad to have you. Thank you for being on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
So I'd like to start off for my audience and myself. You have accomplished so much in this space, but you are a visionary. You're one of the founders. You seem to be there before it's happening and in the mix of what to do, how to do, and what to develop. You have a lot of insight and vision. Fill me in on how that's taken place and how you were able to come into this space on your own.
Well, that story's long. I would say also, I'm just getting started. I think that I'm due to accomplish some of my greatest accomplishments in the next year. So 2007, there was a big financial crisis in the United States that all of us remember. During that time, I was a political scientist, and I had a background. I came up in the streets. I always understood that, I always said that money wasn't real, and no one ever really believed me. But that 2007 proved that there was some real major flaws in our system. And I was in school being educated and had enough insight to see the writing on the wall. And the writing on the wall is that our current economy couldn't take us into the future. And so they've printed up a whole bunch of money since then to try to maintain the system, but it couldn't last, and it's still not a solution. And so I started doing these token experiments because you're valuable, I'm valuable, and we can exchange that value. We just need to find a medium of exchange, which money is the current medium of exchange. I was in these groups on Reddit that were trading silver and gold and things that were valuable with each other. And they put up this Bitcoin white paper. Has anybody seen this? And this is November of 2008. So I read it, and the first sentence kind of sold me. It said, loosely quoted, a peer-to-peer digital currency not issued by a centralized authority was the basic summation of the introduction. So I'm like, oh, this is what I've been looking for. The problem is that there's central banks that have a monopoly on printing up money, but they don't actually focus on creating value or stabilizing society or improving the lives of others or this and that. So there's just a math. So in school, there's these two forms of economics. One is Keynesian, the other one is Austrian. And I was of the Austrian school that said that economies should balance themselves, that we shouldn't use magical math in attempts to balance an economy. We should let the economy go. And there's an invisible hand that creates order in society because water is going to drop to where it is most needed. Things are going to go the way that they're going to go. And regulation and government putting their hands on these types of things often leads us to a bad place. So I read that paper. I got in. I sounded like a crazy person for years. And nobody believed that, nobody understood what it was or thought that they would ever deal with it. Then around 2014, 2015, suddenly a Black community started arising around this. That was really cool for me. Post the Coinbase era, there was a Black community. And so I was on Facebook talking to people about cryptocurrency. And there were a lot of us that were living off of it and different things like that. And then 2017 came around, and it went from $1,000 to $18,000 or close to $20,000 in 1 year. And now everybody thought, oh, I remember, I have you in my phone. People started calling me. They said, I have you in my phone and your name is Bitcoin. In my phone. I don't remember where I met you, but I remember meeting you. You told me about this thing. And I had talked to so many people over the years about it and introduced the idea to so many people that I became an authority. Then 2018 came around and I became a villain. As it went back down, I became, oh my God, what, you were wrong again. And this rug pull and this and that. And a lot of people got into things like ICOs. They were looking for a get rich quick scheme. And there was a lot of nonsense going on. And then fast forward 2018, I discovered this thing called crypto art. During that time, there was something called crypto art at this place called the Ethereal Summit that would later become NFTs. So all of this, I say all of this to say all of that time prepared me for a moment when I got on a platform called Clubhouse. And on Clubhouse, I had so much information stored up. I knew all of the projects. I knew the founders of the projects. And so I started rooms on crypto. And for the first time, there wasn't somebody sitting up there talking about a thing from the financial perspective or talking about a thing from what they heard about on the news. There was a person, myself, who had been there every single step of the way, that was there when Bitcoin was worth zero, that understood the why of it, the importance of it, the value of community and how communities could create value. And I explained that to people, and that created a formation of a new thing that would then be called Web3, that people will properly see as Web3. There was already a term, but now people really saw it. They saw that this Web3 philosophy, the philosophical backing. Why is Web3 important? Community, and then terms like friends and OG, and these types of terms that are now commonly used are launched in the lexicon in those conversations. Unfortunately, at that time, I still wasn't, like how I sent you my calendar link to have this meeting and things like that. Mm-hmm. I didn't have those types of communication systems and things like that. My DMs were closed on my Twitter and things. And a lot of people that wanted to communicate with me, and creating that cadence of communication, especially when you've got a deluge of attention, I wasn't really able to take full advantage of that time. And I went into, and I started going into corporate culture. CEOs started inviting me into their companies to come in and work with them. But really, they by and large, early on, and it's still probably to this day, a lot of my conversations, people want to hire me for my influence or for my connections, or this and that, want me to give them a list of people to contact, or this and that, not really my advice around the thing. But then, so I worked with a lot of different people across the years since then, and my advice has proven out over time to be the most valuable thing that I could possibly offer. And also now, to day, I reduce opacity around crypto culture and Web3 and artificial intelligence, which I've also been a part of that community now for 7 years. And then a lot of assumptions that people have around business models, assuming that NFTs are this other product that you can sell. I kind of challenge that reality and really focus on people. And then I create these strategic partnerships. And now I've launched this community, ICGNU, that's focused on 18 years ago, I had this ICGNU vision, and I've talked about it for years and sold out different clothing lines around it for years. But now the ICGNU collective over the last 9 months has had dozens and dozens of individuals of high status and of different status, founders, builders, and creatives coming together to form this Voltron type entity that allows for us to plug into each other and our different talents, where you, Donna, don't have to become an expert on Web3. All you have to do is know an expert on Web3. You don't have to become, and you can, and your expertise, you can magnify your expertise. And that's what I always, when I was in those rooms, that's what I really was trying to tell people. And there was a stream of experts that now probably after 3 years, they probably kind of are getting to a certain level of expertise. They're almost got their 10,000 hours in where they can have a certain level of expertise. But what I was really pushing the people to do, and what I push people to do now, is I push people to lean in. Don't lean away from what you were doing before. Lean into what you were doing before and augment it. And by knowing our weaknesses, the worst CEOs that I've ever worked for didn't realize their mental flaws and their mental gaps. And the smartest people that I've ever worked for, and myself, I try to have the humility to know this, as I've spoken in this conversation, this is what I wasn't doing. This is what I haven't done. This is who I need around me. I need those different types of people around me. So that's really what I'm focused on now. And that's what took me across the thing. And how I got in and got myself in was I didn't get myself in. I finally had a place where I was able to speak to people. People saw, like ICGNU, I see God in you. People saw it in me. They recognized my talent and my potential, and they pulled me into things. And still to this day, I don't have a sales process. I don't have anything, but God continues to provide me with opportunities and openings. And perfect example is Breathe. I'm at Breathe because a guy named JP, who worked with Breathe, who's the head of films at Gala Games, or now he's on their advisory board. He knows me. He recognizes my position in the community. He introduced me to Stormy, but then also I recognized in Stormy his potential and chose to be involved in the event, while others may have seen it like, oh, are you going to pay for my everything, this and that? And so that's what it is. It's really just people recognizing greatness in me, or recognizing the good in me, my abilities, my genius, and me being accepting of that and following where God leads me.
Israel, I can listen to you all day, but you have definitely affirmed, confirmed, and validated a lot of the things that I saw in Web3, crypto, blockchain, and in this entire arena. You really spoke to me when I met you on the speaker meeting that we had with Breathe. And there, when I saw you and a few others, there seemed to be a connection there where we were about the community. We were about the value. We were about doing the best, leaning into your strengths. And there's a lot to be said for that. I, too, am here doing the podcast, really trying to provide people the information so they can move forward in their lives with their best selves and not miss this opportunity. I missed way back in the day. I didn't understand what was happening with Intel. I did not understand the shift that was about to take place. I remember somebody telling me at work, look, why don't you just go ahead? The credit union is right over there. Get you some money. Take a loan. You need to do this. But I didn't understand. I had no idea about investments and finance. I wasn't taught that really back in the day. We were just told, go to college, get a degree, get the job, assimilate, and keep going. Well, all that don't really work like that. But at the end of the day, that's what's really motivating me today. I feel everybody out there needs to know there's a major shift going on. There's some serious technology coming in, and this should benefit a lot of the underserved, of different populations, people who need identity, those that are unbanked, in so many ways. The education, collectibles, entertainment, rights, just everything seems to can be improved. So in my mind, with you being the leader and the go-to for the NFTs and Web3, but you mentioned AI, and a lot of people have a fear. And I'm also here at my age. I've been hanging around the earth a long time now. I'm coming almost into my 7th decade. So therefore, with AI, should there be fear? I don't think so. I think all of us need to lean into our strengths, utilize technology for our benefit, whether you're in business, a student, faith-based, or nonprofit, or just coming into the mix. There's a space for you. But what can you tell me about the AI? What do you wish it was? What are your biggest fears? And how did you get involved with that piece of it?
Well, I would say that fear is healthy. Fear is not a bad, too much fear, but fear is false expectations appearing real, right? So the reality is that AI is going to solve a lot of our problems. It can solve a lot of our problems. And I wouldn't like people to think about it as artificial intelligence, because when you think about artificial, like our teachers are talking to kids about it, and they're like artificial flavors. That has to be bad because artificial isn't good. It's not real. But this is more like augmented intelligence. Somebody that's using ChatGPT, if they have a low ability to read or a low ability to edit their content and see what their content is, then they're not going to be able to create optimal content, even using ChatGPT, even instructing it. It's really augmenting the intelligence of us. and allowing for us to do things a lot faster, do things a lot better. Some of the fears, my main fear is, so I've got a healthy fear of government and of systems and bureaucracies, because I know through life experience the damage that they can cause. And so that's where my fear is. My fear is that our bureaucratic system won't be able to keep up with the drastic change that has to come in society. Now that artificial intelligence is coming, we still have a job-based society. And the reality is, the true reality, the fact of the matter is, most people, we didn't raise, our current educational system did not raise critical thinkers. It did not raise creative thinkers. It did not raise people that are capable of being and contributing to the forthcoming system. It told you to sit still, be quiet. This is what's right. This is what's true, and this and that. And until we get to a university level, we don't even get to open our minds up and open our brains up unless you go to a prep school or a boarding school or something like that, where they teach you about Latin and Stoicism and all this different stuff, and allow you to learn in a successful way. So the majority of people, the truck drivers, soon, if right now, if a truck driver is raising his son to be a truck driver, he's in a bad position, because automation is going to change within his son's lifetime. Within his father's lifetime, it's going to put him out of work. But within his son's lifetime, it's going to be non-existent. There shouldn't be any of us who have sat in traffic realize, if you ever just step back and think about it for a second, we shouldn't be driving. It shouldn't be us driving. We need something smarter than us driving. You ever been in a traffic jam and you see the whole long line of traffic, and then you get up front and you realize that it's only because they're looking at an accident on the side of the road, or a couple of different people driving slow, or this and that. So we can really start solving problems through automation. It's going to really help our lives in a lot of ways. And designing metals, you have to go through millions of iterations, curing diseases. But that's the thing, is our bureaucratic systems have to change. So Johnson & Johnson and Merck and Pfizer open up their research files and allow for an AI to look at that research and create a cure for cancer. That would be amazing.
Awesome.
That type of thing is not going to happen unless we change the way that we think about society, unless we change our systems. And our system structurally is like an aircraft carrier, or even even bigger than an aircraft carrier. It's hard to turn it around. It's a mountain. It's hard to move it. And that's the scariest thing for me. The scariest thing for me is that AI and robotics keeps on advancing. People keep on getting wealthier who invested in these things and who are able to use these things. And then we head into that future that we see. We have two futures: a more utopian future than we have now, or a more dystopian future than we have now. And people around the world are starving. Wars are high enough. We just had the warmest year in recorded history. Global warming is real. We need some drastic societal changes, and AI is more likely to create those things, but human beings are still in control of the pace. And that's my biggest fear.
I can listen to you all day, but I do have to make sure that we stay close to the time period, because right now I really want to get into critical thinking, and that is lacking in today's world, I think. And there's some other areas that you mentioned that maybe we can come back to at another time. But for our audience, I know you're aware and you started the NFTs, but NFTs, smart contracts, are a part of the NFTs. And there's a lot of question and confusion about smart contracts. How do we find them? What do they look like? And people just don't understand. Could you explain NFTs, what it exactly is, and how smart contracts work with that or function with it?
Yeah, so I would first like to say is I didn't start NFTs. I would give that to people like Marguerite Dorsel, who was doing crypto art on Bitcoin, or Cody, or Steve Aoki, and this and that. I got exposed to it around 2018, a little bit earlier than the public. They came out in 2017 with Crypto Kitties. And then I came into it 2018, and I got a chance to expose the world to it, but I wasn't even close to an expert in it in that time. My biggest thing is an imprint on the culture of those things. But then as far as what happens with a smart contract, so basically a smart contract, Vitalik Buterin created Ethereum. Ethereum is in the white paper, it talked about the world's computer. So Ethereum utilizes, so on Bitcoin solved the currency use case of blockchain, but Bitcoin didn't allow us to build applications utilizing blockchain. Blockchain, for a brief description, is, I see you have it in the background, but basically a series of blocks interlinked in order that have the hash signature. They have this cryptographic hash, 16-digit hash that starts with 0x for Ethereum. And the last hash of the last block is in the next block, and you can never put them out of order. They're always going to be linked in order. So this solves problems like the double spin problem, and it solves a lot. It reduces the need for middlemen and intermediaries. And so going back to where that works with art. So now a smart contract is written on the blockchain. It utilizes the blockchain. It's immutable. You can't change the blockchain. And once you launch a smart contract, it exists there. Now, there's two forms of NFTs. One is an ERC 721, and then another one is ERC 1155. That doesn't really matter that much, but an ERC 1155 allows us to create multiple NFTs within one smart contract, or multiple portions to an NFT within a single smart contract. Where it really became important in that time, which I was there and I was part and parcel and witness to, was suddenly via Clubhouse, artists got majorly exposed to the possibilities of NFTs and what they could do for their art. And the artist, that's why I'm so against what's happening with OpenSea, where they're not allowing artists to get their commissions, because the artists were the ones who were the proponents of this. They were the progenitors of the mass movement. They basically said, previously, I would sell my art. You get a piece of my art for $50 off of the street. Later on, you sell that art for $50,000. I don't get any of that. That in the way that things used to work, I get nothing for the sales of my art. So you have great artists. Gordon Parks was a great example of this, the amazing photographer from Harlem. He died destitute. So many different artists died in the Marguerite Barat, all these different people. They were artists. They spent their lives in the art. Suddenly their art becomes extremely valuable after their death. They didn't get any of that value, and their families don't get any of that value. The way that smart contracts can be used is that there's a percentage that every time a piece of art sells at an ever higher price, the artist gets that set commission. Some artists have set that commission at 10%. Other artists have set it at 30%, and this and that. And that really was the unique factor around NFTs, is that suddenly artists were able to perpetually, in theory, make a living off their art. That period was short-lived, but it was really inspiring.
So the new platforms beyond OpenSea, are there other platforms that people should be considering besides OpenSea for their artwork that you find that brings more value and income and passive income to the artists?
I would say that they should create their own smart contract this was what happened before OpenSea became popular. Rarible was a site, but really majority of successful artists had their own smart contract, sold their own art, and forced their own commission. And I would say that would probably be the place that people go back to, looking for tools. I don't want to speak for any of those tools because the companies have never engaged me. I don't like some of their founders, but there's a lot of tools out there that allow for you to create your own marketplace. And utilizing your own marketplace or utilizing your own smart contract, you will be able to enforce that. So that will be my number one suggestion. And soon, I believe, with the bite back that's going to happen around OpenSea, because projects are going to stop minting on OpenSea and people are going to start going to OpenSea, they're going to see an extreme devaluation. And hopefully at some point, they either go out of business or change their tactics. And then eventually, I think there's going to be a global standard that's adopted. That's another, rather than these that's self-enforcing inside a smart contract, and it becomes the norm. But that's up to us. That we really control the narrative around that by not spending our money. Every dollar, every ETH is a vote.
So, going forward, what I haven't asked you, what are some of your big projects? You mentioned one of the communities that you're very involved in. Do you have a wish list or things you'd like to see, or something that you're not telling us that you want to share? Any secrets?
No. So going back to that community. So I was building out a series of applications. I built out a series of AI applications and smart contracts, and I've done all these different things. But right now, especially as Black people, we get into a point where we're building things or launching, and we build this deck out, and then we have to go and raise. And such a small percentage of capital gets given to us for that raise. That is constant, and we're constantly in competition with each other. And I want to wipe that away. I want to create an environment. My goal in life is to create environments in which all types of genius can thrive, with emphasis on the all. So really, I'm just tilling the soil. I'm the constant gardener, tilling the soil, watering the soil, and letting others plant their seeds in that soil. So more than anything, I'm looking for people that have great ideas and great abilities and great resources that we can combine our resources. It takes three things to do something great: skills and talent, resources, and a network. It's very rare that people have all three. So people need to stop, our people specifically need to stop competing with each other. If you are in competition with another Black person, both of you guys are going to lose the race, because there is no way, because we're already behind. So there's no way to win in that regard. And even the most successful of our people aren't coming to save us, because by their measurement, we're not. They got the W.B. Du Bois talented 10th methodology, where they're only thinking about the people that they approve of, not realizing that there's many people that you don't even understand the value.
Preach. We're there. No wonder we were here. Yeah. Been there, done that. Going through that now. Don't nobody understand teams, collaboration, accommodation. Let's work together, sharing. Everybody just move on.
There you go.
You don't get it. We'll get together. I grew up with teams on the corporate side, but I do wish I could see my future is that I think about is that why can't we all just get along and at the end of the day function as teams? Everything you've learned in those positions in corporate jobs and brands, I had to learn how to apply them in a different way. But those dynamics do work if everybody got out of their own way and being I, and what I can get, the power of the money for me. If everybody could at least look at the fact that if you share, if you partner, if you collaborate, or even have an alliance, and maybe that's the old airline part of me. We had alliances, collaborations, and code shares. And even though you may not have booked on that flight, you may not travel on that flight, we might ask you, do you want a reservation? But at the end of the day, we still saw the airline alliance as a team, and teams function at all levels. There's ways I can help you. There's ways you can help me. All of us need to connect and partner and shape tomorrow together. So we're here in the same space and place, and I think we almost on the same node, okay? So at the end of the day, I've learned a lot. And how can people reach out and connect with you? What can you share? How can they reach you?
I'm Israel S. Wilson on all socials, Israel Wilson on LinkedIn. LinkedIn may be one of the best places to reach me now. Also, the community that I'm speaking of, you can find that community at ICGNU.xyz. We still, at 111 people, we're going to put up a token gate or a subscription, so that maybe for the next couple of days, people will be able, by the time they see this, maybe it won't be free anymore, but it's always going to be affordable. And within that environment, I've created coursework and feeds and chats for people to be able to congregate and feed off of each other, and created a manifesto that hopefully embeds within people that ethos. So that's the thing that I'm most excited about. I have an AI co-founder that I'm building that's basically built already that I'll launch in sequence with this. I have a forthcoming book about bootstrapping your company, utilizing AI, and I'm speaking at different conferences and Art Basel and all these different things. But the thing I'm most excited about truly is this community. And for perspective, I've been building this community for 9 months. I've spent far more in money and time building the community than I've gotten from it. But it's been the most gratifying thing, and the writing on the wall. And the thing is that it really showed me that people are truly valuable. And if you get good people together, you can really do amazing things. And it's the hardest part is getting people to see past their nose, that get focused on, but wealthy people focused on outcomes while poor people focus on income. And if I can help anybody, that would be the message that I would say to you, is that I've created a life for myself. And going back to Clubhouse hours I spent, or the hours that I spend with this community, most of my greatest opportunities have been created by things that I've done for free. And if you can figure out how to serve, you look at how wealthy preachers become, you look at how wealthy politicians become and everything like that. If you can figure out how to be a good servant, like Joseph, which is the Bible character that I resonate with the most, you can figure out how to be a good servant, then everything in the world suddenly opens up to you. And I would say to people, and also too, this is not only a Black community. I have people from all walks of life. But if you feel limited, if you feel like nobody recognizes you or sees you, if you feel like there's an issue that's insurmountable, but you know that you have the capabilities, but there's something missing, there's a home for you, and that's this community. And suddenly, if you're honest with yourself and you listen to other people being honest with you, and you allow people to help you, and you're willing to help others first and foremost, give first, then suddenly you're going to see your world open up for you. And I'm happy to help in any way that I can.
And we're going to leave it there. So thank you so much, Israel. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Pivoting to Web3 and shaping tomorrow together is really happening in community. Thank you.
Have a great day.
Thanks for listening to Pivoting to Web3 at pivotingtoweb3.com. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so that it gets to you with every episode that comes out. We have lots of great opportunities, limitations, and downward spirals being revealed by our guests. And thank you in advance for all your reviews and comments. I appreciate you so much. I look forward to serving you in the next week's episode.